good afternoon to wherever you might be watching us. Welcome back here to a new edition of the LosAlamitos.com preview show. I'm your host, Jose Contreras, alongside Chris Wade. Chris Wade, your Los Alamitos analyst each and every night, as he's done so for many, many years down in the paddock and throughout the building, of course, giving out his hits from Burgarts as well. Chris, welcome back to the program. How you doing on this nice Thursday afternoon?
Well, it's a great, beautiful day here in Southern California. Remington Park getting started, so we're going to getting our selections for the Remington Park races on Saturday night that we simulcast here at Los Alamitos. So great weekend of racing here at Los Al.
Yeah, Remington Park is starting up. That means it's going to be hot and heavy now with those following that Oklahoma circuit. Of course, with the 2-year-olds getting underway in just a few short weeks. Remington Park starts off. Do they start off the meet with trials?
On Friday and Thursday and Friday they do, yes.
Okay. All right, so looking forward to that card. From Remington Park, you can watch and wager on site if you're at the track at Los Al. All right, let's pick up the pace here on this weekend preview show. A couple of racing cards Saturday and Sunday at Los Al. We'll have a 9-race program on Saturday. No stakes events, but we're looking forward to the finals of the Winter Series later on. Talking about the Saturday program, Chris, you're going to take us to race number 7, a very tough to read maiden claiming event. There's a lot of inconsistent form, a lot of runners that have had trouble. So I'm interested to hear who you like here in race number 7.
Yeah, this is a trouble-prone runner deluxe event. Every horse in this affair has found multiple lengths of trouble. Like I said, the 2 horses coming out of strong races and had trouble in both lifetime starts. And that last effort was much like the debut, when breaking slow and leaning back and brushed inside the gate and was finishing better and looked under a hold far back with the drop in class. And up against slow breakers to either side. So the horse gets away halfway decent. Has a big look there in that 7th event, second leg of the late pick 4.
And that is going to be the 2 drum major, who you like. And again, 300 yards, quarter horses, maiden claiming of 62.50. So the 2 and the 4 are the 2 morning line favorites, 95 and 2-1. So let's talk about your 2 drum major back on January 21st, race number 8 on that card. He was in gate number 4, which was the outside post because of the couple of scratches in this race.
Yeah.
So outside post, talk to me about drum major.
Yeah, it gets a little fractious on the gate and leans back at the start. And because him getting fractious as per usual right there, leans back at the start and brushes the side of the gate and kind of slow on his stride. But then he kind of drifts out, and he's better than shown. He's under a hand shove throughout, but I like the way he finished. And also gets a nice size individual, and he's striding out well under a hold, and is a much better looked effort. Doesn't look that good on paper, but he's better than looked at with the drop in class, with everything factored in, the trouble, the track variant. He's got a big look at the outcome here at this level with the drop in class to be a big factor. You see him lean back, brush the side of the gate, and slow on the stride, but finished better than looked under a hold far back.
At that point, you could tell, 100 yards into the race, 150 yards, that Cesar Franco said, all right, we're not going to be much of a threat. We'll just coast home the rest of the way. So he didn't really ask for this gelding in the second half of that event.
No, didn't ask him at all. It was under a hand shove. And like I said, you can see a nice sized individual. He's better than shown. And much like the debut, he broke slow and drifted out steadily. And as a horse to watch off both efforts. And with a drop in class and up against slow breakers, much like himself, he gets away halfway decent. He's got a big look to put forth a nice run past the gap and be tough to deny near the wire as my top choice in that 7th event.
Who do you consider the main contender? Is it the 4?
Yeah, the 4, first time for Jose Flores, came back with a decent workout, that B-. He had a little trouble, brushed aside the gate, was under a hold far back. He's better than shown, and that's the main threat in that 7th event.
So that's race number 7, field of 6, 300 yards, maiden claimers, only 1 first-time starter, Mooney Mission. Based on the workout, I kind of wanted to see more spark. So I think that one will get better with more experience. So I'm going to take a pass on the first-time starter. But Drum Major, definitely a horse that has plenty of upside with only 2 starts up to this point, is dropping down to a new low. So that's going to be Chris's selection, Drum Major, race number 7 at 9-5 on Ed Burgart's morning line. And we opened the show talking about what's to come there in the simulcast land. You are going to be providing your analysis for top 3 selections for some of the simulcast signals. Remington Park is starting up, so tell me what you're doing for the Nightlines this week.
It seems like we have this on Saturday and Sunday. Simulcast being piped in for Remington Park. Races 4 through 11 on Saturday night. They're all 2-year-old trials, and we got some nice ones in there. So take a look. They'll be on the website and on the back of the program. Our selections and race 5 to 1. Free Tater is a nice runner. A very impressive workout. I gave that A- workout. He's up against kind of an A field, in my opinion. So he's definitely one to watch in race number 5. Their second of the simulcast races that we take on Saturday night.
All right, looking forward to that. So Remington Park gets underway. Chris selections can be found both in the print edition of the Nightlines or losalamitos.com. Let me see if I have one handy. In case you never seen the Nightlines, I do have a physical copy. Here's what the Nightlines is sold on track and also at various simulcast betting outlets in SoCal and racetrack. So print edition of the Nightlines includes past performances, selections, analysis. You have Professor G's workout analysis as well for the local horses. You got top 3 selections for both me and Orlando's, and of course Chris's selections as well as for the simulcast signal. So a print edition of the Nightlines, you can buy it on track. You could also purchase the digital download edition at losalamitos.com. All right, Chris, thank you for joining the program this week. I know it's a busy time of the year with the 2-year-olds starting up in other parts of the country as well, like Oklahoma is. But both you and I enjoy looking through those pedigrees and those training races, and that's very helpful as a bettor. So it's a fun time of the season when the 2-year-olds get underway.
Yeah, I guess new blood and some nice runners, and you can find some nice runners on those training races. So check out those workouts online, and of course, when our babies get started, you see our workouts as well.
Yeah, you can check out losalamitos.com when you see those 2-year-olds. Actually, they already started working, so you can go to losalamitos.com, kind of click on dates, click on names, and kind of make some notes looking ahead towards the next month or so. All right, Chris, have a good rest of your Thursday. Thank you for your selections and your analysis, and I'll talk to you this weekend out there at Los Al.
Yeah, okay, boss. I know it's a short price, but been having lots of trouble with our horses. Just trying to get a winner back in the box.
Same here. I'm gonna go with a morning favorite. I'll talk more about that. That's a horse I scratched a few weeks ago, so I'm kind of forced. I got to take that horse because if you don't take that horse that you took last time out, what are they gonna do without you?
Invariably, and you always give them one more chance, horses. The time you get off them is the time they come back to bite you a little bit in the back end. So, but give this horse a look with a decent getaway, and then 9 to 5 we'll take.
All right, Chris. Have a good rest of Thursday. I'll talk to you later.
All right, boss. Have a good night.
The best of racing is always at Los Alamitos with exciting action every Saturday and Sunday night. Next on the stakes schedule is the Grade 1 Los Alamitos Oaks with a great field led by fastest qualifier Asher and many of the nation's top fillies, plus the Grade 2 El Primero del Año Derby with graded stakes winner Political Rivalry, 5-Bar Supreme, and many other top sophomores. It's always a great weekend of action with the best of racing at Los Alamitos.
Welcome back to the program. That's right. We just concluded the trials there for the El Primero del Año Derby and the Los Alamitos Oaks. You're now back on the desk here with Mike Wrona, the voice of Los Alamitos. Michael, good to see you. First of all, how was your Vegas outing to watch some rugby?
Oh, yes, mate. That's right. Thank you for asking. It was good. It was just such a novelty to see Australian rugby league teams competing in the US at the venue that hosted the Super Bowl so recently. It was kind of surreal and so much fun to see many Australian rugby jerseys around town. When I would walk about that afternoon, last Saturday afternoon, I was amazed how many supporters there were. And so it was a good atmosphere and a lot of fun. I'm pleased that I had the opportunity to do it, even though my team from Brisbane did not measure up. They were a bit disappointing in their season opener. They got to what they call the grand final, the equivalent of the Super Bowl at the end of the last season. They lost narrowly in heartbreaking fashion, similar to the 49ers, I guess, in that respect. So they really, they had a fantastic season last year, but they looked a bit ordinary first time out for this upcoming season. They need to get their act into gear, but I just enjoyed being able to be a part of all of that. It was exceptionally windy, just awful weather there the whole time, and driving back and forth was no fun. But It was a unique opportunity.
I was going to ask you that because the weather, the wind advisory was pretty brutal on the drive there. So I was kind of thinking about you with that drive. So good to see you were able to make it safe and sound. And is your team you were interested on? Was it the Broncos? Is that the nickname? The Broncos, Brisbane Broncos.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I'm looking up the jersey right now. Kind of a maroon, purple, and gold. Is that the colors?
With some maroon, white, gold. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those were kind of my high school colors. Shout out to Long Beach Wilson Bruins. Those were our colors over there.
Sensational.
There it is. Yeah. Kind of the Vessels Club maroon. That was my colors in high school. Well, kind of makes sense where I ended up. So, all right, good to good to see that it was an enjoyable outing there, due to our weather cancellation down in LaSalle this weekend. But that led into a Sunday that was stacked. So that led to a Sunday card that was now 12 races total. 6 of those races were trials for the El Primero and the Los Alamitos Oaks. So 3 and 3. So let's recap what happened. First, I'll start the conversation with Political Rivalry, who picked up where he left off most of his 2-year campaign, where he was almost undefeated. He picked up in big style, posting the fastest qualifying time for the final.
Yeah, and the thing that I've always liked about this horse is how he can fire from any part of the starting gate. He has won from wide draws, middle draws, inside draws. He did it from the rail last Sunday night in his 3-year-old debut in the fastest qualifying time. And I just love that burst that he gives mid-race. He really put them to the sword. And he's a formidable proposition going into his 3-year-old campaign, just as he was so brilliant across his 2-year-old season.
Yeah, and he was ridden by Jose Nicasio or Heath Taylor. 1985 was the time he posted. He did it from the inside post, and he looked sharp pretty much every step of the way. Political Rivalry led the charge, and it was SE Time to Run, 5-Bar Supreme, Kicking Famous, Expensive, AJ Top Secret, Kevin's Weiss Corona, Boardwalk, Remember John, and Favorite Nuke.
The thing that interests me in going to the final in a couple of weeks from now is the fact that Political Rivalry has been so brilliant from day one, and obviously is maintaining his level, whereas SC Time to Run, who cost a fortune as a yearling, was very slow to develop, and he was only just starting to find his way towards the end of last year. And he is improving. It was a very good win, a dominant win in quick time in his trial last weekend. So that the two of them are kind of colliding on somewhat different trajectories. And I just find that a very interesting aspect of the final. You know, can SC Time to Run continue to improve? If I can take you back briefly to the night of the Los Alamitos 2 million futurity trials, I was invited to be part of the consensus picks, where we devote a full page of the Nightlines program to a roster of handicappers giving picks in each of the trials. And SC Time to Run was actually my top selection in his 2 million futurity trial, and he finished third at 29 to 1, which did me no good, by the way, from the standpoint of the consensus. But I was looking at that horse roundabout last fall as one to keep an eye on, and so I did have him on top in that consensus. And after that, he ran second in that $50,000 consolation race to the 2 million, and then had a fast maiden win. So he's really coming around, and let's just see if he continues on that upward trajectory. If he takes another little step forward, Political Rivalry will need to do everything right. But I think it's a 2-horse race. I cannot imagine anybody else toppling that pair. I think one of the top 2 fastest qualifiers wins, and I'm a huge fan of Political Rivalry. Got to give him the edge, I guess. But SC Time to Run is a dangerous rival.
And going back to that consensus in those trials, another horse that was prominent in those trials, or at least I thought he was, because your top pick was that horse at a price. My top pick at a price that night was Kicking Famous. Kicking Famous ended up getting beaten a neck, I think, on trials night at big odds as well. Well, Kicking Famous, another tough defeat on trials now this past weekend when he lost the Bob to 5-Bar Supreme. Watching it live, I thought he might have gotten the Bob, but that swung it the other way. It was a big favorite Supreme getting the nod versus a 15, 16 to 1 Kicking Famous. So that was a key start to the pick six last weekend. But also, if 5-Bar Supreme kicks it back up to that 2 million trials, 2 million finals time, he can be a threat. But I feel like he's kind of flattened out in the last few times I've seen him. He ended up with the third fastest qualifying time.
Yeah, he just needs to improve, doesn't he? Every other horse that qualified needs to improve to challenge the top two, in my opinion. And we know how fantastic 5-Bar Supreme was in the 2 million behind Train Station V. It was an enormous effort. But just based purely on what he put forward last weekend, I just don't think he's quite up to the other two.
And then switching our talk to the Oaks, the Grade 1 Los Alamitos Oaks. Asher, again, looked ultra impressive, winning pretty much gear down for the last 100 yards or so. She's sharp. She's in good form. I'm a big fan of her. I think everybody's running for second if she brings her A game once again.
Yes, you latched on to Asher very early. You loved her in that Holiday Handicap. Was that the name of the stakes race she won late last year? So you identified her very quickly upon her arrival here at Los Alamitos, and she was tremendous again in that Oaks trial last week, and strictly the one to beat. Now, the top three from her trial ended up being the fastest three qualifiers overall, and when in the mode, finished third to Asher and made it into the field for the final. I was on good terms with myself coming into the final trial, where my preview pick was More Than Heart, because you'll remember on the preview show last week, I was giving you all those time comparisons. They had run on the same night and flyover as well. And I was sort of just analyzing those times and comparing them. And I thought, well, this is looking good for More Than Heart based on In the Mode's effort in her trial. And More Than Heart got the worst trip conceivable. She was slammed. She was bumped badly. She had her hind quarters turned. It was a nightmarish trip for her. And obviously she didn't end up making the field for the final. But that I've lost no excitement about her as a future prospect. We just have to wait for another day for More Than Heart. I'll tell you the horse, since I'm not on the Asher bandwagon like you are. You're obviously going to pick Asher in the final, and you'd be crazy not to. Yeah. But I'll tell you where I'm going to go.
Okay.
Market Analyst was 7-2 on the morning line in her trial, which was the final race, I think.
Yes.
She went off at 11-1. She was absolutely friendless in the wagering. And I mentioned to you on the preview show last week how strange I thought it was that she'd had only one 220-yard turn and work in preparation for this race. It was her first start since last summer. It just seemed very light. And that, I think, was reflected in the lack of wagering confidence behind her. So for her to round as well as she did, make it into the field for the final, I wonder whether there's more scope for improvement in her condition than for any other horse in the field. I think she can take a big step forward since she's in this final with that trial under her belt and be a really dangerous player.
She ended up with the 9th fastest time. So it was Asher, Checking Cartel, In the Mode, Hubba Hubba, Double Down 1, 2, 3, Southern Divine, Separate Heart, Silverback, Market Analyst, and Favorite City ended up being the bubble. So that is the top 10 fastest qualifiers. And of course, Asher was most impressive in her trial, winning very nicely. That's a quick recap of what happened in those respective trials. And it was fun to see, two separate races trials happen on the same card, which rarely does happen here at Los Al. And if Asher wouldn't have been geared down for most of that race in the second half, she would have posted the overall fastest qualifying time, even between boys and girls. Just the way she did it.
So I hadn't even thought about that, but that could well be so. She was dynamic, and I'm sure there's no doubt she'll be the one to beat in the Oaks.
We'll have to see how she draws. Post positions is very keen quarter horse racing, so we'll see where those respective favorites and fastest qualifiers get as far as post positions coming up in a couple of weeks. All right, let's get down to business about this week. Let's talk a selection for this weekend's previous show. We'll start with you. I'll give mine after you. So let's go to race number 9, the feature allowance event on the Saturday night program. Talk to me about who you like.
It's a good little allowance field, isn't it? So great to see Cattail Cove coming back to action as a 7-year-old. And there are several good quality horses signed up. Now, do you remember a few weeks ago, I was lamenting to you how I had picked BP Cartel Policy in the trial to the Winter Derby, who won, but then somehow jumped off him in the final and he won again. And so you would think that there's no way in the world that someone would do something so silly again anytime soon, right?
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to be a fool. So
exactly.
Reminding you, Jose, that I picked You Can Run on the preview show when he won on the 13th of January.
Yes.
So I'm going to try and beat him, aren't I? Because I'm a bloody idiot. No, it's just a case of relative odds, really. I mean, he's 7-5, and he's such a classy old horse, and I'm a big fan of his, and he did the job for me last time. But I'm just thinking that there is a better value option, perhaps at least in exacta boxes, so that I don't necessarily completely abandon You Can Run. Okay. But number 2, I'm a 60 man, is the horse that I'm interested in here as a value play. He's actually a stablemate to Cattail Cove.
Yes.
Both trained by Juan Alaman. And his last start, 3rd in an allowance, was very good behind an extremely sharp Eleventorero. Let's take a look.
Yeah, that was back on February 3rd. And here's the replay for I'm a 60 man. He was in gate number 3. And the sharp winner was Eleventorero, a classy individual. But let's focus on I'm a 60 man. Gate 3. Here we go.
Yeah, I didn't think there were any particular excuses for him on this occasion. He got away cleanly enough, had space either side to operate. So I make no excuses for his defeat. But the fact is that Eleventorero was winning for the 2nd time in a row, and he is razor sharp at the moment. This horse was not beaten very far, clocking a good time individually of 17.68. And I think it's enough to keep him in the mix. That race that I mentioned that You Can Run won back in January when I picked him, he ran 17.65. And I know it's dangerous comparing times from different nights. I do get that. But, you know, there was no wind on either occasion. The track was fast both nights. And they ran pretty similar times. And matter of fact, when I'm a 60 man, ran 3rd in a stakes race last summer, the Sergeant Pepper
feature,
behind Always a Chance and Marcelo. He ran 17.63. You know, so it's in the ballpark. On his day, he can run that fast, and he, if he gets away in good order, will be in contention throughout. And again, just at the 9-2 odds, I thought he might have been worth a look. I'm not bubbling with confidence, but again, perhaps a 2-4 exacta box might be the way that I approach the race. Personally, I prefer to just risk Cattail Cove. I want to see what he's got coming back as a 7-year-old from the rail. He has had some terrible experiences in the starting gate in his last few races. They had a failed experiment with a flipping halter that's being dispensed with. And if he comes back and wins, I'll be elated for the horse. But just from a wagering standpoint, I'm a little bit leery. So I'm just thinking 2 and 4 might be the way to go.
And both the 1 and 2 are trained by Juan Aleman. One is owned by Link Newcomb and the other one by Board Short Stables. And of course, Ivern Lara has been riding for the barn of Juan Aleman. He lands on the 2. I'm a 60 man. But then again, you also get Armando Cervantes on Cattail Cove. So we'll see what happens here in the featured allowance, race number 9. And you're going with I'm a 60 man in gate number 2. And you're trying to put your own foot in your own mouth again by jumping off the horse that you gave us. So I'm looking forward to see what happens come Saturday night.
That's why I'm trying to stress the possibility of an exacta box whereby if you can run wins and my horse tonight just manages second, then maybe I don't look quite as silly.
Yeah, that could be true. So an exacta box is in play in race number 9. All right, well, we're going to wrap up the show pretty soon. So I'm going to talk about my selection, who I like. And this is kind of a case scenario that I liked this horse last time out, Michael. So he was scratched by the time the card ended up running. So I'm gonna take him back on principle because I know I'm gonna bet him somehow, some way. But I'm still once the morning line came out, it came out pretty simple that I just got to take a stand here. Race number 3, 2.5 furlongs, thoroughbreds, and when I'm talking about New Park, New Park was entered maybe not last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. He ended up being scratched out of a race that I thought he was going to be. He might have been dropping for 2,500.
Yeah, he was taking a big class drop. It was not last week, maybe the week before. I do remember it, and he was scratched, and you liked him that night. Yeah. Yeah,
and I think he might have been dropping for 2,500. So they didn't. The for sale sign was up. He was scratched. He reappears in this spot for 4 claimer, which is still a very class drop compared to what he's been doing. But he's not dropping to the bottom. Now, the key is going to be, the question will be the distance, right? Because now he's at 2.5. I'm going to show the replay from last time out. This is January 21st. He had the rail. He was the odds-on favorite, but he's going to break slowly, almost last. Well, pretty much last, towards the back of the field here from that inside post, second to last. So he had to be used along after that slow break to rush up. But at this point, the outside runners were already kind of crowding him, and he gets into a tight spot right here. He's under a pool. He has to pretty much lose all position. So that running line on the chart doesn't really tell the entire story where he was just 5th, 6th, and it looks like an even run. Well, there was more hidden speed than what it appears on paper. So we know he can be very quick from the gate. We've seen it before. Yes, the 2.5 furlong distance is a question, but I like where he's drawn more towards the outside part of the gate. Vermeer has shown some speed, but he's not always the quickest. So I'm going to take New Park. I know it's 2.5, but I think tonight is the night for him to bounce back to a better performance, and hopefully that leads to a win. New Park gets listed at 9-5. He is switching barns from Keith Craigmont to Jesus Nunez, but Mike Flory has been using both of these conditioners in the past, both Keith and Jesus. So New Park, 9-5. That is going to be my key selection for the show. And also that will be my single for that early pick 4 that I'll be giving out on FanDuel TV.
Yeah, the thing that jumped out at me about this race is that there's hardly any 2.5 furlong form. Yes. Normally you see at least a few of these horses with some recency at the abbreviated distance, but Vermeer is the only horse who falls into that category, which made me think that Vermeer was a pretty logical pick and hard to beat. He can reproduce the last effort. I mean, he's similarly spotted class-wise and just seems like another winnable race for him, with the fact that no one else has been running at the 2.5 furlongs. But I take on board every point you made. They're all valid points about New Park. And if he jumps out of there on terms with them, he absolutely is going to be very tough from one of those wide draws.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's an interesting spot, obviously. And I like that there's not a ton of recent 2.5 furlong experience from the others outside of Vermeer. And maybe that doesn't really give an edge to anyone in this spot. And that's why I think New Park can jump up and be sharp in his first try at distance. I think this might be his first try ever from what I remember. I haven't dug deep to the lifetime PPs, but at least we haven't seen him in the last couple of seasons. So New Park is my play. I know it's a morning line favorite, but look, there's a horse I like last time out. On principle, I just, I got to take him. I got to take him right back. So that's going to be my play, New Park in race number 3.
Okay, yeah, I remember that you were scrambling, having to revamp all of your pick 4 tickets, etc., for FanDuel TV when New Park was scratched, and that has to throw a monkey wrench into the works for you when one of your locks is scratched on the night.
Yeah, especially when it's a key opinion as far as a single, and pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 6s as well. So so that happened. I want to say definitely that wasn't last week, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's when this happened. So New Park is back in the entry box, and he's back at a little bit more reasonable claiming price. So that'll be my play. All right, that about pretty much does it. Anything else that you want to share with the BM public for this weekend?
No, just looking forward to 2 nights of racing this coming weekend. It'll be a lot of fun, no doubt.
We did have some rain, and I am researching on the fly. We had some rain last night. I want to say, I'm looking at the forecast. There was some rain scheduled for, actually, no, I'm looking at Cypress, Texas. Cypress, Texas popped up with rain. How about that?
It's a dry forecast locally, but in Huntington Beach, I can tell you yesterday, was a lot of heavy rain that lasted a lot longer than predicted. So I'm glad that was on a Wednesday and not a Friday.
Yeah, so here's a forecast. Saturday's calling for clear, maybe clouds, 67 degrees high. And on Sunday, cloudy, overcast most of the day, but no precipitation, 65 high. So cool evenings, cool days, but no precipitation. So it should be clear for racing this weekend at Los Al. Michael, always good talking to you. And let's get back to business. Double cards here on Saturday, Sunday. And I'll talk to you over there at Los Al this upcoming weekend.
Very good. Hooroo.
Year after year, night racing's best bets are at Los Alamitos Racecourse. The Los Alamitos early and late pick 4s. Both wagers continue to feature outstanding pools in 2024 and terrific payouts. The early pick often has pools of over $180,000, and the late pick 4 often has pools of more than $150,000. And remember, Los Alamitos still offers the $10,000 pick 6 promo on Sunday nights. Year after year, night racing's best bets are at Los Alamitos. Play them on Saturday and Sunday nights.